Hello everyone, Scott Klusendorf here, president of Life Training Institute. Welcome to the Case for Life. Be sure you take a moment to visit us on social media and like our pages. We want to equip you to be the best pro-life defender you can be. You know, I never thought I would ever talk about Taylor Swift. I didn't really want to ever talk about her, to be honest. It's not something that really fits in the lane with this podcast. I'm not a pop critic. I really don't care what her music style is or how many fans she has or who she's dating. None of that is of interest to me. But there was something that came up this weekend that was interesting. Apparently, Taylor Swift is preparing to not only endorse the Biden campaign, but come out very strongly in helping the Biden campaign win on the abortion issue. And I only could find one thing she wrote on abortion from a couple of years ago, shortly after the Dobbs decision. I'll read it to you here. She says, "I'm absolutely terrified. This is where we are. That after many decades of people fighting for women's rights to their own bodies, today's decision has stripped us of all of that." Well, you could say a lot about that comment she just made, but here's the thing. First of all, the Supreme Court in Dobbs did not strip anybody of any rights. It simply said there is no constitutional right to an abortion, and then it kicked the issue back to the states to decide individually. So she's distorting the facts, but that shouldn't surprise us. Nothing new there at all. Here's what I am concerned about, though. We are among a people today who do not know how to think critically. Our biggest problem is not that pro-life arguments have been heard and rejected. Our biggest problem is we've got a lot of people around us, including in our churches, including in our schools, people we might work with, our neighbors, even family members, who wouldn't even know how to begin to think critically on an issue like abortion. And it's going to be vitally important that people like us who convey the pro-life message return again and again to the clear logic of our view. Now, right away, I can hear the objections. People say, well, wait a minute. You just read that post from Taylor Swift that was divorced from anything factual and logic, and yet her influence will sway millions. And you're right, it will. And I'll say a couple of things about that in a minute. But here's what I want you to understand. Though it is true that arguments alone may not be sufficient to change the culture, they will always be necessary. And we've got to make sure we don't confuse necessary and sufficient conditions here. It will always be necessary to lay out our case, especially in light of what I see coming politically. And I'll just kind of speak off the cuff here. What I see coming politically, and if you study history, by the way, you'll see that things come in cycles. There's a ebb and flow to things, and social reform movements have major setbacks before they get major advances. And I think that's probably what's coming with the pro-life position. We're about to face some more major setbacks. We've been facing setbacks since the Dobbs decision, since Roe was overturned. And I suspect in the next couple of years, we're going to face some biggies. I don't think the 2024 election looks promising for us at all. Democrats are outspending Republicans by billions. It's not even close. We're going to be outspent big time. Our candidate for president is probably in trouble. We're facing some challenges ahead. And by the way, let's be clear what that means. If the Democrats get the House, the Senate, and the presidency, as I suspect they will in 2024, the very first order of business they will get to is establishing a federal piece of legislation that enshrines abortion on demand through all 9 months of pregnancy. That is likely coming. And the reason I'm being bad news here is I just want to warn you up front, we're not in for good news in the near future. I do believe we may be in for better news in later times, and I'll explain why. The reason I'm optimistic long-term, but not optimistic short-term, comes down to this. Right now, there is no doubt that Democrats are winning on abortion, and they're going to continue to win for some time until pro-life apologists are able to saturate this culture with a more meaningful pro-life apologetic that gets right to the heart of the issue. For starters, let's stop disguising what we're standing for. When it comes to ballot initiatives like what's coming up in Arizona, in other states, Florida, and about 11 others that are coming up in the next year and a half, let's quit pretending that the real issue is parents' rights. No, the real issue is abortion. Let's argue for our position. Let's get the truth out about what it is and let the chips fall where they may. And the reason I'm hopeful for a later day of optimism comes down to this. Demographically, you're seeing some major shifts in the Democrat voting base. For example, you are seeing African Americans more and more look toward a more masculine GOP candidate than they are a more effeminate Democrat one. That is not playing well with black males, and we can see some increase in the vote for the GOP coming forward. You can also see that Latinos are shifting a lot. Not enough to totally switch an election yet, but the combined effect of the demographic changes that are coming, I think, are going to favor the GOP. But that's in the future, not now. What's coming up now is going to be a season of dark days for those of us that are pro-life. And it's going to be vitally important during that time, when the logic of Taylor Swift is what's carrying the day, that we as pro-lifers continue to lay a logical foundation for what we believe. Don't let people tell you nobody cares about logic anymore. Well, they may not care about it, but that doesn't mean it's not important, and there are still enough people who do, that it's vitally important we present our case persuasively and logically in order to preserve the truth of the pro-life movement through the dark decades that may be ahead of us. And I know a lot of people right now are thinking, man, are we ever going to win this fight? It looks like we're about to get crushed. And you're right, it does look that way. And I do think in the short term, a tidal wave is breaking in on us that's going to be very bad for our side. But here's the thing to keep in mind. None of us are absolved from speaking the truth on this issue. God told the prophet Jeremiah, stand in the public square, testify against child sacrifice, and oh, by the way, nobody's going to listen to you. We think we have it bad. How would you like to be that guy? But secondly, our job right now is to preserve the truth of the pro-life view, the principles that are foundational, the objective truths that one day may take root in our culture if we remain faithful and at our posts. So I want to discourage us right now in the era of a Taylor Swift moment where the woman is almost godlike in her ability to proclaim things and have people buy into it. Remember also, though, that Taylor Swift worked very hard to try to defeat a Republican GOP Senate candidate in the state of Tennessee, and it failed. She did not win. So we can still make advances. We should not get out of the fight just because culturally it looks dark right now. We still have a chance at making progress even during the dark season that's breaking in upon us. Even if nationally things go south, you and I must stay at our post, continuing to make a case for the pro-life view, which is why we're glad you're here. We want to help you do that. We've got a course online aimed at helping you with that, the Case for Life course, which you can get at scottklusendorf.com or caseforlife.com. You can also get the book, the newly released second edition of the Case for Life, that will help you defend your pro-life views with people you know. We have got to remain faithful, testifying to truth, and don't let the cultural darkness that's breaking in on us dissuade you from continuing to stay at your post and proclaim truth. We'll save babies individually if we have to for a while until culturally things can change. All right. Thank you for listening to my little rant today, but I want to encourage you, let's remain faithful to what's true, good, and beautiful, and not be discouraged just because millions of fellow citizens want to turn against us. We can be faithful to the Lord in this. We must be faithful to the Lord in this. That's all for this time. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.